Welcome back to the BTS Happy Hour podcast. I'm your host, Andrea. This week, there's been a lot of news about BTS's upcoming album. We knew, based on the announcement at the end of the Day 4 Permission to Dance Las Vegas concert on April 16th, that the date of release would be June 10th, 2022. Right now, there's a small window in the comeback schedule, so that's when I decided to record this episode. I'm at the point where the track list of the 3 CDs has been released, and the next release is going to be Proof of Inspiration on May 16th. So we're going to go through everything up to that point. On May 4th at 7:49 a.m. here on the West Coast, we saw a countdown appear on Bangtan TV on YouTube. The countdown was for 7:54 a.m., so it was only 5 minutes away. So, of course, I clicked on it. There were tons of ARMY in the chat room already. All the comments were like, what's happening? Or, oh my God, or, purple hearts. We haven't had that rush of excitement that you get when comebacks are happening in a while. So it was kind of fun to have one of those moments again. So the video starts, and then they showed clips of all the title tracks going back to the beginning of their career. So they showed the release dates for each of them in this 80s digital font. It kind of reminded me of Back to the Future, when they select the date that they wanted to go back in time to that font. And the trailer was kind of a longer version of that teaser that we saw at the end of the concert. So it made you remember all of their title tracks, all of their greatest hits pretty much, and made you think about, wow, this is really great discography. So I think they were trying to have you remember their history. And so we didn't know where they were going with that, but it looked like they were setting the stage for whatever the next title track or album would be. So it's like, okay, remember all of this, and then here's the next thing. So at the very end of this trailer, they said, we are bulletproof. And I don't know if it was like all of their voices together, but I kind of heard RM the most. So I don't know if it was just him or all of them together, and RM just kind of stood out more. But it sounded very robotic, kind of like the Terminator talking. And I was like, okay, that makes sense because, he's bulletproof. And it kind of had a futuristic vibe to it. So it didn't give you a lot of information here, but from what I gathered, it was like, a little futuristic, not giving too much away, and maybe a dark concept possibly. And it was interesting to see the font that they used with that, the We Are Bulletproof, and then Proof, that part of it had this like graffiti or Old English kind of font. The O's in Proof, I'm sure you noticed, were the ARMY symbol. So I'm looking forward to seeing what's going to follow with that. So then they put an announcement on Weverse, and it said, hello, this is Big Hit Music. After ceaselessly sprinting forward since 2013, BTS is celebrating their 9th anniversary this coming June. It is all thanks to ARMY, who have sent us your unwavering love and support. The BTS Anthology album that embodies the history of BTS will be released as they begin a new chapter as an artist that has been active for 9 years to look back on their past endeavors. The Anthology album Proof, that consists of 3 CDs, includes many different tracks, including 3 all-new tracks that reflect the thoughts and ideas of the members on the past, present, and future of BTS. So that was a very interesting announcement. It gave us the information that it's an anthology, and so yes, that makes sense that they showed us clips from the past, and because it's going to be potentially included on this album as part of the anthology. And it told us that there's 3 new tracks, so okay, that's good. And they brought up that whole thing about this being a new chapter for them. So I'm wanting to see what they mean by that. Does new chapter just mean like the next chapter of what they're doing, or does it mean, oh, we're gonna change things up and this is something different? So we got this announcement on Weverse, and the pre-order started like the next day or something. So, okay, the fact that this is an anthology, what do we think BTS is saying by making this an anthology as opposed to a regular album with new songs? They want longtime fans to experience the nostalgia of all the past hits and comebacks. They want the fans who, quote unquote, miss the old BTS to relive the earlier eras. They want Baby Army to feel like they were there from the beginning. I know that's always the number one regret of New Army. And they also want the general public to experience their great songs from the past that they aren't aware of from before Dynamite and Butter and Permission to Dance. So I think there's kind of a lot of reasons to point to for why this is an anthology. Maybe it's strategic, or maybe they just thought, well, this is a good time for this kind of a release. And, not just anybody can release an anthology. You have to be a long-time artist with a lot of good work in order to even put together an anthology, because you don't see that unless it's an A-list artist. You'd have to be like the ones I'm familiar with that have an anthology out there. The Beatles is like the main one I could think of, but you have to be an artist like that. And they didn't even have like a super long career. They just have a lot of good songs. So I think that a lot of people, as popular as BTS is right now, most of the general public don't know their discography very well. Whereas, they know Michael Jackson or Madonna or Kanye West. Like, people know all of those artists' songs their whole career, like the early songs. So I think maybe they're thinking, HYBE is thinking that, BTS can really benefit by putting something out there that has a lot of their past discography on it. So I think that's an interesting idea, and maybe that is just kind of setting the stage for what the next chapter is going to be. And because we don't know when they are going to do a new album. It could be later this year, or could be, we don't have the timing, but maybe that's going to be later this year, or it could be next year. But maybe they thought the timing is good right now for an anthology. Now, I know some people were disappointed because they wanted that album of all new songs right now, and I guess you have to trust what HYBE is doing. Not that we have any say in it or choice, but it's like they did this for a reason. They probably want people to look back before they can look forward, and you have to close the old chapters before you start the new chapter. So I'm just trying to use their terminology here. And the other thing is, you have to consider they still don't know what's going on with enlistment. So, like, let's say they're saying, oh, well, what if there's like a 50-50 chance they have to go at some point this year, the end of this year? Then maybe it's good to put out an anthology, because then there won't be like too many new things to promote, and it's only going to be 3 new songs. So if we wanted to tour, we could squeeze a little bit of that in. So maybe they just didn't want like too many new things coming out right before they might have to leave for 18 months or whatever it is. So, or maybe they're doing that just in case, but since they still don't know. Because I remember seeing articles that the whatever it's called, the assembly or their parliament, they're supposed to decide this at the end of April, and still we don't know what's going on with that. So I think they really need to like figure this out, because it's getting pretty annoying, and I'm sure it's rough on BTS members and HYBE. It's like they can't even plan out what they're going to do next, and everything needs to be done well in advance. So this is something they need to know as soon as possible. Even if they do have to serve, then just say that they do. Just whatever the answer is, we need to know. So I think this could be a very good move for BTS. Just judging by Taylor Swift and her re-recorded albums, all of the Taylor's version albums, because she released those, and like, of course her fans, they know all of the previous songs already, and then she put in a couple of new songs in there that were from that time. her old hits kind of dominated the conversation. Like, it's like, it doesn't have to be all new music to get people talking. So I think BTS has the potential to do that, because we're all going to be buzzing over the past songs and in the couple of new songs that we're getting. So I think this could definitely be a good thing and get everybody else talking about BTS too. And there's still people that they only know Dynamite or Butter, and I think it's time that they got more familiar with the rest of their catalog. And let's remember that there could also be some mixtapes coming out. We have no idea what the timing of that's going to be, but a couple of the members have songs that they are getting ready or are being put together. So that could be something that happens, in the middle of the year or later this year. And then at some point they're going to release a new album. I'm sure this is just what they decided for this time in their career, and it's all strategic. So then on May 6th, they revealed the cover of Yet to Come, The Most Beautiful Moment, which is what they're calling the lead single of Proof. And we see a pretty simple design in blue with the BTS logo, and it has the outline in like white lines, vertical white lines. It kind of looks like what the inside of a cloud looks like with the color of the blue. So, okay, now we know the title track. So that's very interesting, that it's called Yet to Come. So that's very forward sounding. But then The Most Beautiful Moment is kind of calling back to that album, The Most Beautiful Moment in Life. So they're definitely sticking to this like past, present, and future theme that they've got going. And on the same day that they released the title track, on May 6th, they also released the Proof promotion schedule. So May 8 to 10, the track list is released, and they did that, one CD track list on the first day, and then the second one on the second day, and then the third one, and that's where we're at right now. But then after this, starting May 16th, they're going to release something called Proof of Inspiration. So May 16th through the 22nd, since that's 7 days, I'm assuming that's going to be, one video per member, similar to what they did with Butter with those concept videos. That'll definitely be something that we can all pore over and try to interpret and figure out what they mean, and maybe it'll be more straightforward this time. And then, May 27th and 28th, concept photo, Proof. And then May 30th to June 1st, concept photo, Door. So we're getting like 2 sets of concept photos. After that, June 6th, question mark. We're getting something, we don't know what. June 7th, Yet to Come, official MV teaser. June 8th, Yet to Come, official MV teaser on YouTube Shorts. And then June 10th, Yet to Come, official MV. And June 13th, question mark. So June 13th, of course, that's their debut anniversary. Maybe they plan on making an appearance somewhere, or maybe they're doing something live, some kind of performance. Or maybe they've recorded something. But yeah, definitely they're going to do something. And normally they would have told us when they're doing Festa or Muster, one of those by now. So I don't know when that's going to be, but maybe something is happening on June 13th that involves live performances or some kind of appearance somewhere. So then the track list for CD1 was released May 8th, and I'm not going to read off the whole list here, but the track list for this, at a first glance, it's all the big singles or title tracks over their career. So these are all the same songs that were pictured in the trailer, so we're all familiar with these. And I wonder if they just felt like, well, we got to stick to the title tracks, or if they had a tough choice. Like, well, there's so many other good songs too. It's hard to, cut stuff here or make those tough decisions. So, I mean, it's can't really argue with any of the selections here, but at the same time, it's like, oh, there's so many good songs that were also just as big as the title tracks in our minds. Everybody has their favorites, but yeah, I'm sure it was a tough choice regardless. There's no Permission to Dance on here, but it is the newest one, so maybe this has been in the works for a while and this was going to be the track list is already decided. We have no idea, but I mean, you could argue they should have just put it on there because they did name this last tour after it, so it seems like, oh, it's a pretty significant song, but I guess that this was their decision. So on this track list for CD1, the Yet to Come is the last song on there, so yeah, that makes sense. That's going to be the latest title track. But then the first song it starts off with is Born Singer, so that's very exciting and interesting that they chose that. And if you're a newer ARMY, you might not be that familiar with this song, but Born Sinner was a rap song by J. Cole, released on June 18th, 2013. And he's a rapper. And I don't think he's that big of a name at the moment, but at that time, he was right up there with Kanye West and Jay-Z as far as popularity. It was like, okay, who's going to be number one on the charts? Like, which of those rappers? So he was very popular at that time. And so Born Sinner was his song initially, and it was released June 18th, 2013. BTS then debuts on June 13th, 2013. So, like, really that same week pretty much. And they must have really liked that song. And, of course, we remember BTS started off very hip-hop focused, very rap line centric. So they created their song Born Singer, and it samples Born Sinner, and they wrote their own lyrics, and it kind of talks about their journey from being trainees to becoming BTS. And it was a very popular song in their earlier concerts, like 2014, 2015, but it was never released on a BTS album, so you could only listen to it on SoundCloud. And I mentioned the dates that Born Sinner came out, and then BTS created their version of Born Singer. Maybe they didn't have permission to put it on an album since the original was kind of new. It was like literally a brand new song that came out right when they debuted, pretty much. Or it could be that they never intended to put it on an album. They just, it was a song that they created, and it was kind of like, let's just leave it as, a fan favorite, put it on SoundCloud, and that's that. So it's actually kind of surprising that it's on this album, because, or maybe not that surprising, because now that BTS is known, there's artists out there that are like, yeah, go ahead, sample our work, if you want, we're fine with that. Or maybe they didn't even try to get it on an album. We don't know the decision making process at the time, but the point is, Born Singer has not been on an album before. I'm really happy to see it on this one. It's a really good song, and it's actually a pretty emotional song. If you ever see one of the performances of this on YouTube, it's, they're on stage, there's a circle rotating, and then they all sing. They're all kind of facing each other at the beginning of it. And so if I ever see this perform live, I'm going to be crying. I guarantee you're going to be crying. I'm going to be crying. BTS will be crying. And it just hits really hard when they are singing about their career and their like hopes and dreams and stuff. So I just find it really interesting that they just went for the jugular, leading off the Anthology CD1, track 1 with Born Singer. I just wish they would have included all of the SoundCloud songs on an album, but that's not realistic. So but they have so much good music, and it's crazy that a bunch of it is on SoundCloud only or YouTube only and not on a streaming service. So the Born Sinner original writers. They have a credit on Born Singer, so that's why you're seeing J. Cole, James Fauntleroy II, Anthony Perino, Kane Finch, a couple other names, and then plus RM, Suga, J-Hope on the credits there. I wonder if they're gonna use just the version that's on SoundCloud, or if they have kind of like redone it or re-recorded it this year, to update it a little bit. Because I think some of the lyrics, they were like, oh, it's been this many months or whatever, so maybe they've brought it up to date to 2022. So we'll see how that turns out. So I think that's a pretty great choice there. And then we also have some of the credits information for Yet to Come, the title track, and it's produced by P-Dog, written by P-Dog, RM, Max, Dan Glazer, Suga, and J-Hope. So I think what stood out to me was seeing Max on there, and we don't know if he's on the track, but he definitely had a hand in the songwriting. And we know him because he worked with Suga on D2. They had a song called Burn It. And then Suga worked on Blueberry Eyes, which is a song on Max's last album. So I wonder if maybe Max, being a vocalist, if he worked on the vocal parts of the song. Then on May 9th, they released the track list for CD2. And CD2 appears to be solo songs, one from each member, and subunit songs, and then a song called Run BTS, which we all know the show Run BTS, so it must be a song talking about the show, or maybe a theme song. I'm really interested to see how that is interpreted into a song. Is it going to be like a funny song, or is it going to be like a lot of rapping? Because there's a lot happens at Run BTS. It runs the gamut from funny things happening to crazy things happening, and them revealing a lot of things about themselves. So I mean, I'm inclined to say it'll be a fun song, because that's mostly what I get from Run BTS, just like the funny moments and the camaraderie and the teamwork, like, and the backstabbing. But Run BTS. Let's see how this song turns out. This track list has solo songs, and what it seems like we don't know the criteria, but it looks like each member chose a representative solo song. And some people kind of had their opinions of oh, I wish they picked this song, but I'm sure that the members had their reasons for what they chose. So RM chose Intro Persona. Personally, I would have liked Trivia Love, but I'm sure he probably wanted a more rap-focused song to represent him. And like I said, we don't know the criteria they were going by. Maybe if it's on this CD, that means it has to be performed in concert, and so I don't know if that's what they're considering, or if they had to kind of spread out their choices, like, okay, you guys can't all pick your song from Love Yourself era. You guys have to spread out from the different albums. So yeah, we don't know if they were told that, or if they just got like 100% choice to do whichever solo they wanted. And each of them has at least 3 solo songs, I believe is the case. Jin chose Moon, and I kind of thought Epiphany would have been more appropriate. Like it's definitely like, okay, that's a Jin song, because he is the ballad guy. He's does the OSTs, and I just thought maybe that would be more fitting. But I do like Moon, and I know that it has huge popularity on streaming, so maybe he was looking at it that way, and maybe he wanted a more recent song. Suga chose Seesaw, which that's perfect. J-Hope chose Outro Ego, also perfect. I think that is a very good representative song for J-Hope. And Jimin chose Filter. and which I like Filter, but I probably would have preferred Serendipity. But then again, Lie is good too. I guess the problem is he has too many good songs. So I guess you gotta pick one. Maybe he wanted to. Maybe he felt like Filter hasn't gotten its moment yet enough. V chose Singularity. Not my favorite song, but that's definitely his most popular solo. And so I can see why he would choose that. I know a lot of people love Singularity as well. And then Jungkook chose Euphoria. And I mean, you could make the case for My Time, but I think Euphoria is a solid choice too. And I think that probably has a special place in his heart. So that was his choice. And the subunit songs, Stay, Je Me Vu, Cypher Part 3, Her, Friends, 0 O'Clock, and Dimple. So that's a very good selection there. I think some people were surprised to see Stay, but I think it's kind of like, it's really growing on people. Like, I don't know why, sometimes like the songs on B, I think maybe get overlooked a little bit, or like, underappreciated. But I think Stay is really good. It's, especially you hear it in concert, it's definitely fun song that gets people going. And yeah, I think it's a little underrated, but we don't know what the selection process was for the subunit songs either. So I don't know if let's see, 1, 2, oh, there's 7 of those. So maybe each member chose one of those at the same time that they chose their solo. So I'm sure they all talked as a group too to try to figure that out. The Run BTS songwriters, it looks like produced by Dem Joints and Ghost Loop, and written by Daniel Caesar of Caesar and Louis, Dem Joints, RM, Ebenezer, J-Hope, Ghost Loop, Jungkook, Suga, One Eye, Ludwig Lindell, Melanie Fontana, Lindgren, and Feli Ferraro. So I think that's very interesting to see Melanie Fontana back in the mix. If you recall, she is an American songwriter. She writes for, some K-pop artists and Western artists, and her credits on BTS songs include Boy With Love, Euphoria, Sweet Night, On. And if you remember, she's kind of hated by ARMY due to the fact that she would speak in interviews and then kind of act like she wrote large parts of these songs, but people think in reality she only wrote a few words or lines and, not even like the majority of the song. And with Sweet Night, I remember she was saying she wrote it, or she wrote most of it. But then we saw that V said he wrote it, and he told the story of it or whatever. But of course, fans are going to side with V, and, they were both credited, but we have no idea how much each person wrote. But, I guess just in general, people think that she has a big ego and kind of takes too much credit for her parts in these BTS songs. And, I don't even understand why she has to do a bunch of interviews puffing herself up before, because songwriters don't really need to be in the spotlight. You just you write your songs, you get it to the artists, you're kind of a behind the scenes job. So I don't know, but I saw on Twitter this week that her account is on private, so I'm not sure how long it's been that way, but it's possible with this track list coming out, she's anticipating ARMY coming for her again. So I don't know if she just did that as a preemptive move, but I have nothing against her, but I think a lot of ARMY just dislikes her, and good for her if she's still on good terms with HYBE and, being able to work on new songs. So hopefully she knows how to interact a little better with ARMY this time. Like, I remember she was getting into arguments with people online last time. It's like, wait, why are you arguing with fans? This doesn't make any sense. But yeah, I just thought, okay, well, she's back. So she's on the songwriting credits for the Run BTS song. If you remember, there was that one Run BTS episode where each member of BTS came up with new ideas for future episodes. And then RM's ideas were number one, make a Run BTS original soundtrack. And so maybe they didn't make a whole soundtrack, but clearly they decided, oh, that's a good idea. Let's make at least a Run BTS song. And number two, his idea, Lucky 7 special episode. And they actually did that episode like not too long after. That was the one where they had to do all the little tasks, and it was in the practice rooms, and it's like, I forget what they were exactly, but it's like bounce a ball into a cup and then squeeze in between this string on the... Anyway, it's a bunch of small tasks. They had to complete a bunch of them, and it was actually a pretty funny episode. So it was a good idea. Clearly they love RM's ideas. And number three, his idea was fan merchandise. And we all remember they all designed the artist design merch and sold it months later. So yeah, HYBE is loving the RM ideas there. And then Tracklist for CD3 released May 10th. So we weren't sure what was going to happen on the third CD, and there's kind of a lot going on here. There's demo versions of multiple songs. There's some new songs. The two new, or I guess, I don't know if they're hidden tracks, because the three new songs are supposed to be Yet to Come, Run BTS, and this song that's on this CD, For Youth. But there's also two songs called Young Love and Quotation Mark, so I don't know if those don't count as new songs or those are like hidden songs, so they're not counted in the three new song total there. These two songs, Young Love and Quotation Mark, these are P-Dog and RM and J-Hope written songs, so I'm not worried about these at all. These sounds like they could be pretty good. And on the plus side, there's a lot of new stuff here to listen to, because, you know, demo versions of songs, those could almost sound totally different than the versions that we know of. So that's almost like getting new music. So we're getting a lot of new music here. And then also there's the new song For Youth, which, you know, the title tells me it's about ARMY. As we all know, ARMY stands for Adorable Representative MCs for Youth. And I don't know if that's going to be like a serious song or that's going to be a fun song. I don't recognize some of these songwriters, but I do see the Rap Line and Hiss Noise and Slow Rabbit and Bang PD on the credits for Youth. So that's going to be good, I think. Especially, you know, Bang PD getting in there. He wants to be part of that. So CD3 also has Tony Montana with Jimin. So that's a Suga song, Suga mixtape song that, you know, I think maybe one time or more than one time he performed it with Jimin rapping also. And so that's kind of one of those classic moments for BTS. And I love that they have recorded it and they've included it on this CD, because that's a fun surprise. And so we'll hear that. And all of these demo versions of songs, very interesting to see. It seems like every member chose a demo version, although some of them don't specify which member, so I don't know if that means the group or somebody else, or, you know, more than one of them. But some of them say, you know, RM demo version, V demo version. But I can see that there is not a demo version of a song for Jimin, and I can see that solo stans are gonna get mad about that. I already saw that there were hashtags on Twitter, you know, hashtag free Jimin from HYBE, hashtag be fair to Jimin. And, you know, we don't know necessarily like what happened there. Maybe he didn't have a song where the demo was vastly different than the finished song, or maybe he just didn't want to put any of his demo versions in there. Maybe he didn't like any of them. I mean, he might be the kind of person that is like, I don't want to put, you know, a first draft of something out there. I just like, you know, the perfect version. Or, you know, maybe he is heavily featured on the new songs and that took up a lot of his studio time and he didn't have time to go look back for one of his old demos. I don't know. We'll see. I don't think you need to necessarily look at it and say, oh, Jimin is being mistreated by HYBE, but, it's hard to say until we hear when the album comes out. Because I can't just sit here and say, well, that's unfair. That's clearly unfair, because we have no idea. And they have a Jump demo version, the song Jump, on this CD, and it's one of BTS's oldest songs, because I read somewhere that they wrote it when they were trainees and it was used for their monthly evaluations. So I think it's probably the kind of song it's like, oh, we've sang this a million times. Like maybe they have some like bad memories associated with the song, but at the same time, it's a song that I'm sure is very significant to the history of BTS, and they wanted to include it. It has like all those like memories associated with it of being trainees, and it's like, oh, everything's riding on this evaluation. I really need to do well, And so, yeah, a demo is basically a first draft of a song, is what I would call it. I mean, maybe there's a songwriter has a better definition of it, but that's my understanding of what a demo is. We're going to see, like, there's with all these demos that they are putting out there. I am interested in hearing about the Epiphany demo version, because I saw somewhere that Jin said the demo was very different than the version that we know, and that the demo was more on the rock side, which I can't really imagine that, but I guess we will hear what that means, the Epiphany rock version. On the negative side, all of the songs except For Youth are CD only. So why did they do this? Why? Guys, I do not buy albums. A lot of people don't buy albums. I don't have a CD player. I only stream on Spotify. So this is a problem for me. And it's disappointing because I want to hear all of these demos. And I'm sure that they will be somewhere that I can listen, but it's not going to be as convenient as just being on Spotify. So, I mean, there's a lot of opinions out there of, why did they do this? And what is the strategy behind that? But, Big Hit was trying to say that, the demos, they are for the true fans, and that's why it's CD only. And, only, people that were, following BTS those early years are going to understand where they're coming from with those songs, and, they'll be the ones to appreciate it. We don't necessarily want it out there, I guess is what they're saying, for the general public to hear, because it's just demos. And it maybe they don't feel like that's as representative of BTS, the group in 2022. But, other people are just kind of saying, this is just for money. So, I don't know. There's a lot of opinions on that. And I wish they had put everything on streaming, but I can kind of see the arguments there. Some people are saying, like, okay, BTS, they're perfectionists. They don't want to release anything that isn't 100% their brand and their effort. They spend so much time on songs that maybe they felt like putting demos out there on streaming just makes it too wide of a release for people to hear. And because, a demo might not be the best, production values or whatever. And it's just like, sometimes they're recorded on someone's phone or whatever it is, not like the best conditions. But yeah, I can kind of see that argument of where, they're such perfectionists. Maybe they don't want demos out there. But then, if the demos are that rough, then they shouldn't be putting them out on CD either, because they are going to be uploaded somewhere. But then there's also the argument, like, maybe they don't want the demos to chart strongly and then take away from the finished ones numbers, but I don't think that's a very strong argument, because like none of these demos are going to chart that strong, because there's so many other new songs that are all going to be coming out at the same time. I don't think it's going to be, and I don't think people listen to, Spring Day demo version, I'm going to listen to that, and then I won't listen to the normal spring day anymore. Like, I don't think it's you're listening to either or. You're gonna listen to the demo one just every once in a while. You're not gonna be like playing that repeatedly. This is just like, oh, okay, this is interesting what they did with the demo and then what it got to now. Like, you're not gonna repeatedly listen to these demo versions of the songs. So I don't know, but I kind of don't like that they said, okay, the CD only is for the true fans. It's like, well, I consider myself a true fan, but I'm not going to buy a CD. I just don't have a need to buy a CD. So kind of don't like that they stated it like that, but, I still want to listen to these songs, and if the only way to do it is if it's, someone rips it and uploads it somewhere, then I guess I don't have a choice. So, and, I don't think that they should be necessarily perpetuating this album buying culture so much. It already seems like people are starting to have a problem with it because it kind of doesn't make sense in the modern day. Albums with a physical CD, and now people actually have to open up their albums and play the CDs in order to hear these songs. Then there's all the materials that go into it. If they were really trying to be environmental, maybe they would look at that and try to cut back on this whole album buying culture. And, I understand the album is a souvenir, but I just don't have a use for it. I just want to hear the music. I just want to hear it, have it available on Spotify. That's the most convenient thing for me. So I'm just hoping that at some point they will release the CD3 for streaming, and maybe after all of the sales drops off. I mean, obviously that's not going to be for a while, or maybe when the next album comes out, they can be like, okay, we're releasing this stuff on streaming now. I'm hoping that's what the plan is. But now that we have the track lists, there are some questions I have, and I know this was definitely a difficult choice for them as to what to include on this anthology, because BTS just has unlimited great songs in their catalog, so that probably made this really difficult. But we didn't see Black Swan. I think that's one of their huge songs that I guess isn't technically a title track, but very influential, very representative of their great work. Mic Drop, Outro Wings, Dope, Young Forever, Home, Save Me, So What, Just One Day, Bapse, Unpon Man. I mean, there's just like so many good songs. They had to make some calls there, definitely. We also didn't see any remixes. People were hoping for like the Fire remix or the Dionysus remix, so I'm kind of sad about that, but maybe like Proof the remixes can be the next album. Just have 12 to 15 of the remixes that we've heard in concerts that everybody loves. I think that's an idea. Maybe they could put that out there. And No Dang, a lot of people were hoping that song would turn up, and it is not. I think that's another, similar to Born Singer, it's a SoundCloud only song right now. So unfortunate that didn't make the cut. That's a popular one. And the other thing is, what about this Snoop collab? I don't see that on there. There's no Snoop mentioned anywhere on these track lists, so it looks like that's not part of Proof. So I guess we'll see at some point, when does that come into play. On April 29th, Psy released his new album, which included the title track, which is produced by and featuring Suga, called That, which was very surprising to everybody. We didn't realize Suga had worked with Psy up to this point. They really kept that under wraps somehow. Probably you guys all heard that Psy was working on an album. I remember seeing a lot of teasers about it. He was posting on Twitter, and like every couple of days it seemed like there was a new information about his album, and there would be like another song title revealed, and it seemed to be each time a bigger and bigger star that he collaborated with. So it was like, oh, okay, that's cool. He has all-star lineup on his album here. And if you remember, he hasn't released an album since 2017, and that was back when he was still with YG. And it was 2018 that he started his own label, P Nation, and ever since then he's been working as the head of the label and producer. So he was not even entering his mind in 2022 that, oh yeah, I don't know when he started working on this, but he wasn't intending on putting out his own album because he was just doing just fine being a producer and everything and managing his own artists. He was like doing fine with that. And then he says that, out of the blue, Suga sent him a demo track and was like, they don't know each other either. So, I mean, it's easy to think, oh, everybody, all the K-pop people, they all know each other. I guess that's not the case, but you'd think they would have met at some point at music shows or award shows or something like that, but I guess Suga had never met Psy, but they're both fans of each other. I think BTS and Psy have the mutual respect there, and Suga said he was a fan of Psy, and he's working on his own songs. He came up with the basis for that, and he's like, you know what, this would sound really good if Psy did this song. And sometimes you create stuff and it's like, well, maybe this isn't going to work out for me, but it'll work out for this other artist. It really sounds more them. And that was the case with Permission to Dance. Remember, Ed Sheeran wrote that, and he was like, you know what, coming from me, this song doesn't make a lot of sense, but let me give it to BTS, and they can put it out there. And yeah, that was another good move too. Like, sometimes an artist is about knowing like what's right for you, what's right for other artists, and it must be nice to be a songwriter to have that flexibility. It's like, I have enough songs that I can give away some of them, so that's pretty cool. And so Suga sent him the demo, and Psy was like, I like the sound of this, let's work together. And they got together and had a lot of back and forth. They said that the process went really fast, and so I think that's always a good sign when you have that synergy going on. You can put out a good song really quickly. Sometimes it all just comes together. So, I mean, not that I would know, I've never written a song, but it sounds like all the pieces went into place quickly for this song. And so yeah, all through April, Psy had been releasing more info, and it's like bigger and bigger names, and then all he hadn't revealed was the title track. It's like, well, who's gonna be on the title track? And some people were like, oh, it's not gonna be a collab because that's a title track. It's gonna be just him, and maybe someone big helped write it or something, or maybe someone from the West, or there's only so many names that it could have been that would have been like, okay, well, why'd you wait to release this last? It's got to be like a big reveal. So I do think ARMY was pretty shocked that it was Suga or anyone in BTS. And in hindsight, maybe someone should have guessed producer Suga would have been at work here, since he's produced many songs this year, some for the group, August D, D2, he has lots of stuff going on. He's done multiple collabs. So yeah, I guess in hindsight, maybe we could have thought of that as a collective ARMY. And then the reveal for that at first it was like, you saw produced by Suga, and people were like, oh my god, he's producing this song with Psy, that's amazing. And then like a day or two later, it's like produced and featuring. It's like, what? He's featuring? What? He's in it too? Okay, that's even better. And then then it was like, I'm forgetting the exact order of things, but then there was a promo photo, or like a teaser photo, and it had, the first one had Psy in his like Western outfit, kind of in a art style, and once Suga was revealed, then it was like it said the produced and featuring Suga, and then another teaser like poster came out, and Suga was on the poster. It was like, oh, wait, does that mean he's going to be in the video? Is he going to be shown? It's like, okay, that's more. And then they've released some videos, interview clips with Psy and Suga, and turns out he even learned choreography, and he's going to be fully in the video, and he's wearing some kind of Western outfit as well with the theme of the video. So I think it was like, oh my god, this is such a nice surprise, and this is huge. These two names, like Suga, Psy, this is crazy. And I think that's great for Psy, and it sounded like he was pretty much inspired by Suga sending him that song. Like that I think was the first song that he was starting to work on, and then he's like, I'm kind of like in songwriting mode, so let me write up a couple more songs, and then those ended up being used for the album, and I'm sure he had some other collabs he put together. So I thought, okay, maybe is there some kind of strategy here? Like, why does he have so many collabs? And I was like, is he trying to, let me have a lot of the P Nation artists on here and a lot of the other big names, because I want to make sure this album succeeds. I mean, not that Psy has to worry about that, but maybe he was like trying to have a lot of people on there to get their fans to stream it and buy it. But I looked at Psy's previous albums, and he just tends to have a lot of collabs in general. So I don't think this was any like special strategy that he was doing this time. And from what I am reading and like seeing in interviews, it seems like Psy is a very charismatic guy, and it's easy for him to talk to these other artists and persuade them to work with him. So I think he just seems very likable, and it's probably easy to agree to like, okay, yeah, I will work with you, Psy. And he seems like a really nice guy. On a side note, it seems kind of funny because the BTS, the antis, they had been kind of like hyping up Psy all this time, as if to say like, oh, Psy, the real king of K-pop, is back. He's the real deal, not BTS, like that kind of thing, like praising him, but really they're trying to shade BTS. So then Psy comes out and he puts BTS on his biggest track, his title track of his new album, and on top of that says Suga is his best friend. So I just think that's hilarious. Like those people that thought that they were trying to insult BTS by propping up Psy, it's like, well, that didn't work out for you. So yeah, like I said, with the promo posters they have for that it had this vintage look, this old west font, and I thought it was such a fun choice. It looked like a spaghetti western from the 60s, except with like lots of colors. The song comes out, and it's a great song. It did not let me down at all. It was like a fun beat. It's very like high energy. You want to dance to it. And actually, I don't want to dance to it because I know I can't dance to it. It's too hard of a dance, but it's very fun to watch the dance. So I thought the beat was really good. That Suga came up with that part of it. I read somewhere that Psy wanted to get away from EDM. I guess he thought, some of his earlier songs was more EDM, so he wanted to have some different kinds of beats, maybe like Latin style beat. So I think Suga, this definitely sounds like, oh, this is a Psy song. So Suga had some good instincts there as when he's putting this together. And the beat, it definitely sounds Psy. And so I can see why Suga sent it. And then it's just such a true collaboration because it sounds like a Psy song, but also sounds like the Suga influence. And, he wrote his rap parts, and he also wrote the chorus, and then Psy wrote the parts that he sings. And I think it just all works together really well. And I listened to the rest of Psy's album with all the other collabs, and some of those songs were pretty good, but I feel like that was the best track for sure. And My issue with some of the other collabs is that to me, they don't sound like Psy songs. They kind of sound like that artist that did it. Like maybe they didn't, incorporate as much of the Psy side of it, or, it just sounds like more like the artist that contributed rather than Psy, or rather than like a combination. So I don't know if that's what Psy wanted from them, or that's just what he got and he was fine with it, and maybe he wanted to do some singing himself. I don't know, but I think that was definitely a triumph, and I think it's amazing that Suga puts as much effort into his collabs as he does for his own music. I know we all thought that Suga being persuaded to do, the full effort on this song, like he's in it rapping, he wrote part of it, he's in it, he had to learn all the choreography. I think it's all sounding very familiar to us, because that's kind of what happened when Bang PD persuaded Suga to join the group, because Suga was like, I just want to be a producer, and then Bang PD kind of persuaded him to do more, and it's like, there won't be too much dancing, and then there's like, tons of dancing. So I don't know what it is about these older gentlemen pushing Suga to do more and, reach more of his potential, but I think it's pretty funny how that happens. It's like, I just wanted to write a song, and that's it. They released the MV, and set in the Old West, and it's kind of different than other Psy videos. His videos tend to be in like high-end hotels, or like, nice places. There was one video, Gentleman, which was set in Vegas. If you could recognize that, there's parts of the Venetian in there. Definitely familiar if you went to Permission to Dance Vegas and saw some of the hotels there. So so this one is set in the Old West, and it actually looks like the exact same area where they filmed Permission to Dance, so it probably is the same thing. And also, I think it might also, I didn't look this up, but it could also be the same thing as where ITZY filmed Not Shy, because they had kind of an Old West theme for that video too. But so it's very similar. I see a lot of parallels to this song and Permission to Dance, not just with the set and the costume design, but also the same idea of moving on with our lives after the pandemic. I definitely agree with that message. And, Psy had it as part of his lyrics, pandemic's over. And I think Suga is definitely on board with that sentiment, as far as, let's go back to how it was when we were doing fun things and didn't have to be, stuck inside all the time. Let's go back to things that make us happy, gathering together with friends. That's great to see. And I know it's got to be even more tough in Korea, because they still have a lot of restrictions, and they haven't lifted them yet. And I think BTS felt like, I'm not going to speak for them, but I think that they thought that Permission to Dance Seoul concerts, all those rules they had, like, oh, you can't stand up, you can't make noise, you can't do anything, you have to use a clapper, and it's like, this is all very ridiculous and silly. I'm sure they thought so. They're way too nice to say that. They don't want to criticize, people running their country, but it's honestly ridiculous if you look at it. And I know you just kind of have to read between the lines, because remember, like, RM was saying in his V Live, like, oh, I wonder if COVID transmits more when you stand. And it's like, okay, I think what he's really saying is these rules are stupid and arbitrary, and let's just try to move forward, The video was really good. It has a lot of energy. The dance is great. I think maybe the only thing is, like, there's so much going on in the video. You have to watch it multiple times. It's very fast paced. So I'm sure they're fine with people watching it multiple times. But I thought it was a really good video, and especially the part where Suga makes his entrance. It's like surprising. It's like, wait, where'd this guy come from? He just all of a sudden jumps into the screen, and his opening line, bruh, did you forget what I do for a living? It's like, that's amazing. That's perfect. And then I saw a clip where Psy premiered his MV on Knowing Brothers, and they hadn't seen it before, and they're seeing this for the first time. They were shook that it was Suga who jumped in. Like, they didn't even know he was on the song, and they were like so stunned, and they gave the video a standing ovation, and they laughed at the scene where they're fighting, where Suga and Psy are punching each other, and then Suga's holding the dying, Gangnam Style Psy. So I thought that was pretty funny. And this video also has similarities to Dashwata, because that's kind of in a desolate, dusty area too. Although not the Old West, but it had that same prop car as well. I don't know if the same exact one, but it's the same model. So I don't know what they're trying to say with that, if it's the connected universe or not, or just, oh, we just wanted to use this prop and there's only so many car props out there. So yeah, if you saw in the video, the Gangnam Style Psy shows up, and then he gets beaten by Suga for some reason, and I'm sure that I think they played that for comedy, but also I think it's just kind of symbolism. It's like a lot of people just know Psy for Gangnam Style. They're like, oh, he's a one-hit wonder, and he just did that one song. And it's like, okay, he has like a lot of albums with a lot of pretty good songs, and I think it's kind of unfair to just put him in that box. And so I think maybe that's what they're trying to say with that scene, is like, let's get rid of that perception of Psy, or the past Psy, and this is a new era of Psy. There's a lot of symbolism here of like moving forward, as far as let's look at this new chapter of Psy, and also like the new chapter of after COVID. And I don't know why, but it just seemed kind of shocking to see Suga going hard in the dance. He's like up front, and it's like, wait, he's like doing all these dance moves. And like, he even said that the other members of BTS seemed shocked as well, but it's like, they work with him for 10 years. They've seen him dance. They know he can dance. So I don't know why they're shocked, but I don't know why. I think it's just because he's often within the group, or on the back or in the side in the formations, because of, they want to show the dance line a lot, or put them in the center. And I think, yeah, it's just surprising to see him front and center. So I loved it, though. I think he did amazing at the dance, and it looks very difficult. So, but I'm not even going to try it, but it looks like, wow, he really went hard with the dance. And it's amazing to see that his injury from the past, it's all totally resolved now, and he can easily do all this choreo side by side with Psy. So I think that's great, and it's good that he got it done at that time, so it doesn't give him a problem now. So I think it's a really fun video, and I keep saying like all the things that it reminds me of, but there's another show I've been watching lately. It's called Warrior. It's currently on HBO Max, and there's 2 seasons already, and there's supposed to be a 3rd season next year. But the show is about 1870s San Francisco, when the Chinese were brought here to be cheap labor, and then the show is about this one guy who was brought over, and of course he has like amazing martial arts skills, and he joins one of the major Chinese gangs in San Francisco. So the show is based on writings of Bruce Lee, and it has like lots of action and good storylines, and yeah, the show is very slept on, so I highly recommend it. But yeah, the vibe of that it brought me back to that too as well. It's kind of like, yeah, Old West is like, that is the time of 1870s San Francisco. We didn't have like paved roads and stuff everywhere. It was just like, dirt roads and a lot of dustiness and rough things happening. So I think if you watch a show and then you see the connection, let me know. I might be totally off here. Maybe it's just like the time period that I'm seeing the reference to. I think Psy and Suga made a great title song. I think the rest of the album is pretty good too. But definitely that is the standout track and definitely deserves to be the title track. As part of the interviews for his new album, Psy discussed the viral photo of himself with V. And if you remember, back in, I think it was 2020, there was a photo of Psy and V. I think it went to Psy's Instagram, is where it was posted. And at the time, there was all this speculation. It's like, oh, what's that all about? Are they working together? Are they friends? Or like, how did this come about? And so in a recent interview with Billboard, Psy explained the story behind his meeting with V. He had posted this photo in September 2020, and he said that V came to him to discuss a variety of issues that he and other BTS members were experiencing and struggling with as their global success skyrocketed. He said V was with someone who was a good friend of mine and passed the phone, so we talked. And he said, I really wanted to ask you a lot of things. So I was like, hey, come to my office sometime. Let's talk. And so they had a good talk about things, dealing with their success and their struggles. So I think that's great that Psy is there as a figure, as a mentor in a way that he can give them advice on things and help them through this because, it's music industry is a very tough industry. I'm sure K-pop even has its own unique struggles on top of that. So that's the best thing you can do is find other people to talk to and try to work through your own issues if you have any. It's like I think the worst thing is probably don't tell anyone and kind of struggle silently, and then then your mental health is going to suffer. And we know that the K-pop industry is pretty rough, and there are those times where it drives people to hurt themselves or suicide. So it's very tough. And so I'm glad that V and other members of BTS are seeking people out and getting some advice from someone like Psy, who experienced being huge on the global scene with Gangnam Style. So I think that's great. And he gave them some guidance, talked to V. So yeah, it seems like Psy is this really nice guy. He's like a chill guy that people can talk to. So I think that's great that V had the courage to seek advice even. It's very hard to say, okay, I have questions or I need help. That's a very difficult thing a lot of times. So I think that's great that V sought him out. And I think we saw how social V can be when we were in Vegas, and if he wanted to talk to a celebrity at the Grammys or whoever he was meeting up with there, he would approach them. So I think that's great. Like, I know we saw from the recent MBTI testing that a lot of BTS are introverts, and so you'd think, well, it'd be really tough to try to talk to people spontaneously, like I have that difficulty too, but it's hard to be social. So I think I can appreciate V, walking up to people. It's like, I want to talk to this person, so I'm going to do it. So I'm glad that he had the courage to do that and that he got some good advice from Psy, I'm assuming. We haven't heard V's side of it, but I'm sure Psy gave him some good advice from his experience. On April 24th, released as part of the original soundtrack for the K-drama Our Blues, Jimin released a collaboration with Ha Sung-woon called With You, which marks Jimin's first solo single. And this was another song that we were surprised to hear was coming out. We didn't realize that Jimin was working on an OST. Actually, I think we did hear about this like a few months ago. Like or maybe 1 month ago, that he had this song. And I thought it was a pretty good song. I would give it like a B plus, maybe. Really showcases Jimin's voice. I think it's a really good ballad. It definitely sounds like an OST kind of song. So I think it's a nice song. I guess the only problem I have with it is that it has another person on it, and honestly, like, no offense to Ha Sung-woon, but I don't understand the point of him being on there when Jimin is also on there, and I just don't understand why there's two people. But I think I was reading later on that suggested that Ha Sung-woon is the one, it started as his song, and then he initiated Jimin's involvement on it. So it wasn't intended to be a just Jimin song at any time. So that's totally fine. I guess I don't understand, like, the finished product. Like, why does it need two people on it? Like, how come Ha Sung-woon didn't just sing it by himself? But I mean, I understand he wanted to work with Jimin, they're friends, and they thought it would be cool, and I can understand that. But I guess from a song point of view, it doesn't really need both of their voices, because like when you have two vocalists from like BTS, like they all sound different from each other, so there's a reason for if there's more than one of them on a track, and you know, that would be complimentary on the song. But I guess on this song it's like, okay, Jimin's on there, and I wish it was just him, but I don't want to take away anything from Ha Sung-woon. I guess he's a, you know, accomplished person himself too. But I mean, I guess I don't see this as anyone's fault, but I could see Jimin solo stands another thing that they would get upset about. And also the fact that this was released and then right after that came out and Proof was announced. So it's this With You is kind of getting overshadowed by all this other news that's been going on. And then there's the fact of, you know, no Jimin demo version on the Proof CD3. That's another thing that the Jimin solo stands are gonna talk about, and it's like, oh, that's another thing on the list of Jimin being mistreated, which I don't necessarily believe in, but it does seem like, okay, there's things that are questionable, but I don't know if this is that. This is just, it sounded like, okay, this song, it originated with Ha Sung-woon, so he wanted to add Jimin to the song. So there's nothing nefarious going on there. That's just how the song developed. So I think a couple of these things happening lately though have initiated the whole debate of, you know, is Jimin being mistreated by HYBE, and, you know, hashtags are happening. So I think that is something that is gonna still be out there. Hopefully it dies down, because I don't think that is something that people should be focusing on too much. I mean, let's just celebrate, you know, when their new music comes out, their new releases. Let's appreciate the music we get, and try to have a positive energy about it, because as far as we know, you know, Jimin is absolutely fine with how he's treated at HYBE, and I think we should just assume that everything's going well for him unless he says it isn't. I think we just have to give HYBE the benefit of the doubt at this moment, because we really have no idea what's going on behind the scenes. So I think we shouldn't speculate too much on negative things, because we just don't have the information to say what's going on and who's being mistreated. Like, we're not there. We're not part of any of those conversations. So it seems to be a little bit irresponsible to frame the narrative that way. So I think if we can all just come together, celebrate BTS new music coming out, Proof is going to be amazing. I think we're looking forward to more of the comeback schedule very soon. You can listen to BTS Happy Hour on Amazon Music, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and other podcast platforms, or visit btshappyhour.com. If you like the show, please take a moment to rate us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. New episodes weekly. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Weverse. If you've listened all the way to the end of the episode, thank you for being a true fan of the podcast. And in honor of proof, comment with a magnifying glass emoji on our latest Instagram post. Until next time, this has been the BTS Happy Hour. Thanks for listening, and remember, make every hour a happy one.